How many games will the Washington Commanders win in 2024? What's going on, commies fans? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL record prediction video, this time for the recharged and rejuvenated Washington Commander franchise. A new, young, second overall pick, Jayden Daniels at quarterback. A new head coach, Dan Quinn. A new GM. A new ownership group. A lot of new in Washington. But with a lot of new comes a lot of struggle. So Commanders fans, I know you're hoping for a major uplifting season of hope and winning. It might not happen this year, and we're going to explain why in this video. Looking at the schedule, the difficult schedule, the matchups that they may upset some teams, the ones that they should win, and where I believe they will finish in the NFC East, within the NFC, and the NFL. If that sounds good, don't forget to spike the like button and subscribe for more NFL record predictions just like this. Hop in the comments and let me know, man, what you think of the Commanders. Do you agree in this rebuilding, rejuvenating season? Let me know if you agree with my record prediction and give me yours in the comments section below. Let's go, man. Let's go. Let's take a look at that schedule, beginning with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week number 1. This isn't the most difficult game that the Commanders could have drawn in week 1. I think it's a pretty tough game going on the road to a veteran team. Baker Mayfield at quarterback is going to give them a definitive edge at that position in week 1, considering his play last year. This is a team that has many players that have won a Super Bowl. This is a team that went to the divisional round of the NFC playoffs last year. But this is also a team in Tampa that could take a step back. So the Commanders might be able to snatch a victory here. I wouldn't be absolutely blown away by that, but I would be a little surprised, right? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antoine Winfield, Vita Vea, Levante David, Tristan Wirfs, these are pros, right? And with Tampa, they have very much the same scheme on defense that they've had for years now under Todd Bowles. They have a similar offense, right? Their offensive coordinator now got the job in Carolina, but it's going to be the same vibe, the same Sean McVay-inspired offense that is there in Tampa Bay. So not too much is going to change. The personnel hasn't changed very much on either side of the ball. So Tampa's going to have a huge edge. Not only are they at home with the more experienced and better quarterback, but they also have a more experienced, overall talented roster. The Commanders got a lot of new on the offensive line, at quarterback, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, some new on the defensive side of the football. So there's going to be a lot to overcome here in terms of fresh new product for the Commanders, especially considering they're already probably at a talent disadvantage. So I'm going to take the Bucs here in that game. I'm not exactly sure whether it will be close or not. I could see it being like a 10-point spread. I could see it being a close game as well. I don't necessarily see a blowout, though, unless Jayden Daniels really has a bad start in the NFL. Week number 2, this is a game that the Commanders could certainly win. The Giants, like the Commanders, are in a similar projection, right? Like both teams are viewed as lower-end NFC teams. But I think the Commanders are more promising. They have more hope. They have aspirations. The Giants are kind of like stuck, and they're almost going downhill. If they win this game, the Commanders, that would really start the Giants' just descent, right? Like off the cliff. But I think the Giants would win the first game, and I think the Commanders would win the second. The reason for that is, just like I said with the Tampa game, the Giants have more rapport. I think they've got, obviously, Brian Daboll's been there a couple of years. I like the Giant coaching staff. I think Daniel Jones would be the more experienced, more crisp quarterback early this season than a Jayden Daniels, who is a rookie. Maybe there is a little bit of a curveball, some surprise factor to the Cliff Kingsbury, Jaden Daniels partnership that could make it really interesting. Definitely could see that. But I think that offensive line-wise, they'll struggle against the Giants' front seven, a really good pass rush led by Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and others. And the offense for the Giants should be a little bit better at receiver with Malik Neighbors, which could give the Commanders some issues. But this is a very even matchup. I think that both teams will win one of the games. I just think the Commanders will be on the incline. They'll be increasing the product. They'll be better, right, by the end of the year. I think the Giants will be the better team at the beginning of the year. So that's kind of how I see it. At week number 3, probably the most difficult game on their entire schedule, I would argue, playing Cincinnati in Cincinnati on a Monday night. Now, there is the LSU Legends matchup, right? Jaden Daniels versus Joe Burrow. But you also got Jamar Chase, right? You got some other LSU players in there as well. But the Bengals, to me, legit AFC contender, legit team to take down the Chiefs this year, or could do that. And one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of the best offenses in the league, a very well-rounded, balanced team and roster that is very tight. Like, they have a lot of rapport, a lot of chemistry. There's not been a lot of removal of pieces since that 2021 Super Bowl run. So the Bengals will be as good as ever this year, and that's just a mismatch, in my opinion. Week 4, the Commanders could win this game. It's like Kyler Murray at home against the guy that many people think could be like Kyler Murray 2, Kyler Murray 2.0, right? Jaden Daniels. I think I lean Arizona, although like you could argue the Commanders could win this game. I think it depends on how the Dan Quinn defense really looks early in the year. I think that the Commanders do have the more talented defense than the Cardinals, but I kind of like the Cardinals scheme. I also like Dan Quinn's. I think he'll bring a fresh approach to the defense in Washington, and I thought it was real stale under Ron Rivera and company. But the offense is really the difference for me, and the home field, right? Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think a better offensive line, a more reliable run game. I like the Cardinals offense quite a bit. I think it's a sleeping giant of sorts. I just think their defense is kind of not very good, which is where teams will be able to beat them. But at home in Arizona, a pretty even matchup across the board. I'm going to lean to Kyler Murray there. Week number 5, I'm going to go with the Browns. This is another game that I would say could be an upset because the Browns don't have a very good quarterback. They have a very talented roster. But I think the biggest disadvantage Washington has here is that they're just outgunned. Their defensive line of the Browns is going to dominate the Washington offensive line, which is a majority of the problem that I have with Washington with their rookie quarterback situation. I just don't think Washington's offensive line is going to be any good. I think they're going to struggle to consistently run the ball, and I think their defense is not very good either on paper. I think they've got a good scheme, some good players like Allen and Payne, but I think they're missing Frankie Louvu. I like that pickup, but they're missing quite a few pieces still. So it's going to take another offseason, another draft, like to me, to beat a team like the Browns, unless, like I said, Deshaun Watson just absolutely plays really bad. Week 6, the Ravens are going to win the Battle of Maryland here. This is a rough start for the Commanders, according to my projections. But the Ravens are legit. I mean, you're playing the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, the Bucks, all teams that made the playoffs last year or have Joe Burrow. And then you've got a rivalry game with the Giants that could go either way. And the Cardinals, which, again, talented quarterback, not a very talented team, they could win that game as well, as explained. But the Ravens are tough, man. I mean, that was the best team in the regular season last year. That's the MVP of football. That's in Baltimore, which is even more difficult. One of the best defenses in the league. It's hard not to pick the Ravens. In week 7, I think the Commanders do get their first win. Although I already gave you a win against the Giants, so that's 2 wins. I think against Carolina at home, that's pretty even, right? I think the Panthers have improved this offseason, specifically on the offensive line and at receiver. They've supported their young quarterback, and maybe that would be enough to beat the Commanders, who maybe haven't done enough to support their young quarterback yet. But I do believe that Dan Quinn would have more of an edge over the young Canales at coach. I also believe that the home field would matter here, and I think that having Payne and Allen as interior rushers against little Bryce Young, I think would make a major difference. So I'm going to take Daniels there over Young. Then in week 8, this could be another upset over the Bears potentially, like I've discussed with the Cardinals and the Giants. This is another like fringe game that they could potentially win. But I think the Bears are a lot more talented than the Commanders. This game is in Washington, so you do give them that little edge, but the Bears have the better defense on paper. They did play as a better defense last year. Actually, low-key were very good near the end of the year, the Bears. They have 3 really awesome receivers with Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore. Cole Kmet's a pretty good tight end. They've got a good running game. Their offensive line is maturing. Caleb Williams is more kind of appearing to be more pro-ready than Jaden Daniels, but I mean, you never know between 2 rookie quarterbacks. One guy at home might be more comfortable than the other. So that could be a Washington win for sure. This is another game that I thought, maybe they win, but this is starting to kind of feel like a team that they're going to be close in some games, but just not be able to pull it out. I've got the Steelers, but the Steelers do tend to lose games that they shouldn't lose, just to clarify that. And with their quarterback situation, they could very well lose any game this year. I mean, Russell Wilson's not very good. Justin Fields is not much better. He's probably worse. The offensive line is definitely better. The Steelers got a great defense on paper and a very good coach. So it's hard for me to believe that they'd slip up against the Commanders, but it is on the road, and it's a team that's not led by a good offense. It's led by a defense, which leaves the opportunity open to get upset. So that could be an upset. I might have to actually add another win on the Commanders just because of what I'm saying here with all these potential avenues for upsets. Now, I'm going to be more clear here. I do think they're going to beat the Eagles, or I do think the Eagles are going to beat them on Thursday night, I should say, pretty handily. The Eagles are much better on paper, much better quarterback, much better coaching overall, in my opinion, much better roster. Dallas is going to beat Washington once at least. I think that this is the game that Dan Quinn beats the Cowboys. So that is an upset for you, beating the Cowboys in your division, which is more likely than beating a team out of the division, and you're at home here. I think Dan Quinn's expertise of the Cowboys, specifically the defensive personnel, will give them a huge advantage here. So I think the Commanders will win one of the games against Dallas. So I think they'll lose the second. The Titans game is certainly one they could win, but I did give this game to the Titans, I believe, in my Titans preview. I do think the Titans are low-key pretty talented. It's a matter of what happens with their quarterback position with Will Levis. Is he any good? But the O-line is certainly improved. I like their additions of the coaching staff with the Callahans coming in and L'Jarius Sneed being traded for, Calvin Ridley being signed. They still got D-Hop. They signed Tony Pollard. They made a lot of improvements to the offense overall. So that's kind of like a roster that could be much better than people expect. They have a bye week, and then I'm going to say that Jaden Daniels goes back home to LSU/Louisiana and beats the Saints in New Orleans. I'm going to go with a little bit of an upset there. A little bit of a shocker. I know that the Saints have struggled with quarterbacks that can move, and Jaden Daniels might give them real difficulty in that game. The Eagles at the Commanders, I'm going Eagles with the sweep, and then the Falcons, I think, will beat the Commanders as well. Although that is a game they could win, right? That's Dan Quinn revenge game. I could potentially see that in that game. So I have them at 4-13, I believe here, right? They beat Carolina, they beat the Giants, they beat the Cowboys, they beat the Saints. I could see them beat the Falcons in an upset Dan Quinn revenge game. The Falcons don't have a very good defense. I could see them beating the Titans. I could see them beating the Steelers, the Bears, or, the Giants only probably once, the Cardinals maybe. But I just don't really think this team is much better than 6 wins, right? Like 5 maybe. Right? 4, probably. That's kind of how I see the Commanders. I just don't really feel like they've improved all that much as a roster. I think their defensive scheme has been improved. I think quarterback will be kind of up and down like last year. I think Sam Howell was actually better than people give him credit for last year. The O-line is still kind of crummy. I think I might have already said that. The run game, I think, will be kind of hit and miss. The pass game, hit and miss. The offense, hit and miss. The defense just, I don't know. Like, I think this team is a year away from being probably a year away, to be honest with you. But that's just my opinion. You guys may disagree with me. I could see them going like 6-11 and slightly surprising me. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, Gronk spike the like button and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.